Happy holidays, everybody. This is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another edition of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. Well, here we are at the end of the year, and I can't believe that we are already headed to 2023. It's amazing to think that this year is already past us. And as we come to a close on the year of 2022, it's now time to think about the year ahead and what you want to achieve. And to help you achieve that goal, we're going to talk today about something that we do in my own office. Each year, a challenge is put before us to think about our word for the year. And so this year coming up for 2023, I want all of you to think about what is going to be your motivating word for the year to help your business, to help your personal life, any goal that you want to achieve. And to help me do that today, I have a surprise guest that will be here to help you decide what your word of 2023 will be. So let's get right into the podcast this week, and we'll pick it up on the other side. Well, I am completely surprised and shocked that I have landed the biggest critic of our podcast, and she has agreed to come on today. And some of you may know her. In fact, maybe many of you know her. Maybe many of you have heard me referenced her on the podcast. It is my wife, Ann Tulloch. Ann, how are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you.
Now,
and thanks for having me.
Now you and me, you agreed to come on this podcast because we have a specific purpose. I am not just biased towards you. Right. Is that we actually have a topic that is very relevant today. And so you almost reluctantly agreed to come on because this is something that we do in our office that I think will help agents for the year ahead in 2023. All right. And is, and we are taking this from ninja selling because this is a ninja thing. So I want to give it its due, but you and I are both ninja graduates. Yes. And we are going to focus today on the word of the year for 2023. You know, we're winding down 2022 right now. And this is the perfect time to bring this topic out and expand this from just our office and what we do every year to the masses out there listening to this podcast. So, number one, you started this a few years back. And so I want to give you credit. And what do you think is the purpose of having a word for the year of 2023?
Sure. And let me just walk it back a little bit because the word is your own word. This is a word that you select. The purpose is it's going to be your inspiration. It's going to be your anchor. It speaks to your intention for the year. So it could be related to business. It could be related to health. It could be related to anything in your personal life. It doesn't have to be strictly business related. So I want everybody to keep that part in mind. And sometimes obviously, the personal and the business and the health, all those can overlap. So it's something that could sort of encompass all of those aspects of your life when you're thinking about your word, thinking about the things that maybe challenge you, thinking about the things that you want to improve, thinking about things that you want to push yourself, things where you would like to make some changes, right? So that's kind of how you want to start thinking about this. So when we started this several years ago, it was before the pandemic. I do remember that. I don't remember exactly which year it was. But everybody submitted their word once they had thought of it. It was kind of fun. You know, it was a good energy as everybody was really brainstorming for themselves. And then I just made a big collage in the resource room in the office with everybody's words. So that was a constant reminder to the office. And some people shared their words with their colleagues, and some people kept it more personal. We didn't identify whose word was whose. But it was a good reminder every day when people came into the office about your word of the year. And then additionally, some people, so as a reminder to themselves, would put their word somewhere where they would see it every day, whether it was on the bathroom mirror, on the screensaver on their phone, posted on their laptop screen. So it's just a good way to kind of get you focused on what it is that you want to do for you.
And I love the word collage in the office because it also gave you kind of ideas too. Like,
right.
Not that I was going to change my word at that point, but you wanted to see what other people were kind of focusing on, right? And if it made sense for you. And it was very motivating to see what people kind of came with, idea wise for their word of the year. I know for me personally, and I think this is where, for this podcast, some people may say, well, that's too simplistic, right? That, you have this word throughout the year and how is it really going to keep you focused? I'm here to tell you it does. And I can tell you, particularly the first year that we did this, I constantly came back to this word over and over again.
Yep.
And so think of this word that you want to make changes to. And like Ann said, you can do this with your business. You can do this with your personal life. If you want to exercise more, if you want to eat better, whatever, you want to build better relationships with your family, whatever it is, go back to this word. And I want you to think of it as your North Star, right? This is your guiding light throughout the year that, we all have valleys during the year. We all have times where we're unmotivated. I look at the holiday season right now. I'm very unmotivated right now, right? I'm in like holiday mode. It's kind of, we're winding down the end of the year. Many of us kind of take our foot off the gas a little bit at the end of the year and prep for the year ahead. That's kind of in the mode where I am right now. So this is why it's a perfect time to think of this word and then think about what is going to carry you through those rough times in the year ahead, because it's inevitable that we will all have times where we're going to have kind of that, we're a little burnout, we're a little stressed out. This is to kind of keep you focused on that, right, Ann?
Yeah, it's absolutely about your intention. And we talk a lot about accountability and having an accountability partner, accountability group to keep you on track. This is almost like a personal checkpoint for you, right? This is gonna keep you focused on your intention, especially when you're seeing that word over and over, and you can go back to that word to maybe realign your thoughts or your actions. It's one of those things. Sometimes people almost think too much about their word. I can give some examples of words that people have selected in the past, if that's okay, Jay.
Yeah.
So, I kind of look back and people have selected things like energetic, gratitude or grateful, evolve, sustain, motivation, energy or energetic. So all of these things mean something very different to the person who's hearing it or selecting the word. So that's the key, though, is that it is something that's meaningful to you.
Yeah, and you actually emailed out to the agents in the office a motivation kind of list, right? You had a word list of potential words for the year that you can choose from. Obviously, it does not have to be on this list that you sent out, but it's a good guide to get you started. So we have that list available. If you want to email me, we will be happy to send that out to you for your word of the year if you need some ideas. And so further that point, some of my words I will just share what I used in the past. So a couple of years ago when we started this, and before, like you had said, before the podcast came to be, my key word for that year was evolve. And the reason why I wanted it to be evolve was because I knew I was going to be getting into the podcast. That was one of my goals. And I wanted to evolve, not only in, my business, but also outside of that. And I considered, the podcast at the time was something outside of the real estate business that I wanted to start to do, even though it was real estate adjacent, right?
Correct.
And there were other goals that I had that I wanted to evolve as a person. I wanted to grow, right? One of my words, I believe this was, I don't know if it came from the list. I think it just kind of jived with the list that you sent out, was tenacity. And for me, I want to be tenacious in everything that I do, right? If I'm going to go after something, if I have a goal, I want to have that tenacity and keep that tenacity throughout the year to achieve what I want to achieve. And sometimes I have to be reminded that you have to be tenacious to get through an entire year to focus on your goals, right? So with that said, this year for me, my word is going to be execute. because one of the things that I struggle with, and will attest to this, is that I have all these ideas in my head all the time. And I come up with this idea, I come up with that idea, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I tend to not fully execute on some of the ideas, good ideas, I feel like, that I have that I can employ in my life or my business, marketing, you name it. I want to be better at executing on those ideas and following through this year. So I'm putting it out there to all of you right now. And I hope Ann, I know Ann will hold me accountable. She's my boss at home and my boss at work. So she will hold me accountable. My word is execute this year. And so, Ann, have you thought about your personal word this year and what you want to do this year?
I have thought about it. I haven't selected it yet. So maybe we can do a follow-up, or you can add that into another episode. I do love hearing from people and what their words are that they select. You know, I was just looking back again, and someone chose the word adapt. And considering what we've gone through the last couple of years, I mean, what an amazing word that ended up being. So, you know, let me get back to you. I haven't picked it yet.
Well, that was a big swing and a miss, Ann.
I know. Well, I'm working on it.
Hey, listen, sometimes you need to think these things through. I understand.
You do. And that's one of my things is I tend to be an overthinker. So maybe that is part of what I need to layer into my word for 23.
Knowing you the way that I do, I absolutely know that it's overthinking that's going on. So you're forgiven during this podcast for not having a word. All right. So how do you feel, just because as a manager, you see what everybody's word is, right? And you talk to people about the word that they've chosen. And so you get a perspective and overview of, you know, everybody in the office, right? And what they're doing in terms of what word they have chosen, and you see the results, right? So how can the word of the year for, you know, each particular agent, how can it change? What have you seen in the way it can change a thought pattern or a mindset in order to achieve or reach their goal?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so one of the agents in my office had a great year in 2020, as many agents did. You know, it was a great year for 21. Sorry, I'm getting confused with my years here. So the word that agent selected was sustain, because it was specifically regarding that she wanted to sustain that level of business. She knew that was a great year, and she wanted to keep that momentum. And of course, we never know what the future holds. But for her, that was important to sustain that level of production from 21 to 22. Ultimately, she did. You know, 22 for many agents was much more challenging than we've experienced, and a much more challenging year as far as business. So for her to be able to look at that word, to give her that motivation to just do one more thing, you know, maybe make one more call, one more contact, maybe do things a little bit differently so that she could sustain that level of business. I really feel that having that word as her motivator and her intention really did have an impact for her. So, you know, it can be something like that. Sometimes people just feel like they need a mindset shift, and we know the power of gratitude. So those of you who have taken Ninja Selling know that gratitude is part of the daily routine, and thinking about just one or two things each day to be grateful for, or that we're grateful about, helps you to address challenges and problems from a different point of view. So you start to see things in a different way, where perhaps you're more solution driven versus woe is me and this is never going to happen, right? Because now you're looking at things in a different way, from a different mindset, a mindset of gratitude and positivity. So once you start thinking that way every day, it does start to filter out into the rest of your day and your week and your month and your year. So some of it's more measurable than others. Some of it's more trackable than others. So I think the key is whatever that word is that you pick for you. Again, it has to be meaningful for you. It doesn't matter if it means anything to anybody else. That's another thing. Don't let the critics in your world scoff at the word that you choose or the phrase that you choose. This word is important for you. And that's gonna be what drives you and what motivates you. So again, some of it's more measurable, some of it's a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Speaking of words.
Well, I think the best way that I can describe, I mean, just a word, but the best way that I can describe it is the voice in my ear. Right.
Right.
We all have that little voice inside of us and this goes back to what we learned about affirmations and kind of writing, your goals out, right? Is that little voice inside your ear sometimes is a negative voice, and we have to retrain it to be positive. For me, that voice inside my ear now is kind of like keeping me focused. Right.
Right. So exactly.
If that little voice is telling me, it's reminding me, execute. When I'm sitting there and I don't feel like doing that +1 that you talked about, right? That extra thing per day, or that idea that I have that, it's 2 weeks later and I haven't worked on that idea. It's execute. And that's what I'm thinking in my head now. So for me, it's more of a voice that is telling me, what to do and what to act upon. It's a reminder.
Right. It almost becomes a mantra or a meditation.
Yes, correct.
For you. Yep. And the other thing too is, execute. To say that is one thing. Then when it starts sinking in, what is likely to happen is now you're going to say, okay, I have to execute. So now you're going to start to write down the tasks and the actions that you need to do in order to execute, right? I mean, would you predict that that's likely?
No, absolutely. And, the other thing is one of, the famous ninja phrases is what you focus on expands, right? And that is totally true. I mean, it really is. And so I think it helps me not only to focus on what I want to be doing, but if I execute, the places I want to go, I'm going to get there, right? Because now I'm thinking about, if I do this, this is going to lead to this. And so I'm focusing on what I need to do to improve my business, and therefore I'm going to be more successful, right? So, if I'm focusing on what I need to focus on, that's going to expand, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And so I do really, really believe that something as simple as a word of the year that can guide you, especially this time of year, because we want to hit the ground running come January 1st. It's a new cycle. And I will tell you, this year you talked about challenges in the market, and there were some challenges, and this because you heard about this every single day for months on end. I had some really challenging deals this year. And really challenging deals that were supposed to settle at the end of the year, and I would have reached my goals. And now, unfortunately, they've been kicked into the following year because we had to, stretch some settlement dates out. There was timing delays on certain things, and unfortunately, I did not reach some of my goals this year, business-wise, because of those factors. Now, next year is shaping up to be great, but I was a little disappointed with how the year ended. And so for me, it's like getting back on the horse again, right? I have to get back on there and
dust yourself off.
Yeah. And you move forward, right? Yep. And so next year is going to be a great year. I can already feel it. 2023 is going to be my year. That's how I feel going into every year. But I think also having that word of the year helps to keep me focused and positive on the year ahead. So anything you want to add beyond that?
I would say, so when the listeners are going through the thought process, focus on your intention. And again, it can be personal, it can be business. And then once you select that word, write it down, or at the very least, share it with somebody and write it down. But it has to be written. It can't just be floating around in your head. That's the key, is you've got to write it down. You got to have it in front of you in some form or fashion.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I put mine on my little cork board in front of my desk. And I often will stare at it. When I'm in my office, it's inevitable. I'm going to see it. It's on, a Post-it note on a bright color right in front of my face. So I'm constantly reminded about that. But like Ann had said, if you want to put it on a bathroom mirror, right? If you want to put it somewhere on your phone, on your screensaver,
your steering wheel.
Yeah, your steering wheel in your car. You can put it a bunch of different places. I'm going to get it tattooed on my forehead. So,
make sure it's backwards.
It's going to be tough to change every year. Yeah, I know. That's no regrets, right? So this is a great start and a great opportunity for each and every one of you to think about your word for the year. And just to follow up and make it more motivational for you, if you want to email me your word of the year, remember my email, jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. If you want to email me your word of the year, I will give you a shout out and we'll share it on a future podcast coming up. So
I love that idea.
Yeah.
I'll email you my word once I have it.
Now I can't I do have to put the caveat out there. I can't go through like 150 words on the podcast, but I will share a couple if that is all right. No favoritism. I will just share the ones that, maybe it's first come, first serve. We'll share like the first 5 of them if that can work. So, Ann, do you want to say anything else before we get out of here?
No, it was great talking to you. Thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast.
It only took 61 episodes to get you on here, by the way.
Well, I don't know what to say. I have no comment about that.
Wait. I do have to say before we leave, I have to give my wife a lot of credit, because when I'm recording the podcast and she is home, there's no form of torture that is probably worse than dealing with me when I'm recording a podcast, because everything has to be absolutely silent in the house. Even if Ann is tiptoeing above me, I record in the basement, she's upstairs. I literally will yell upstairs, shut up, and she's like only trying to like get like a glass of water, you know what I mean? You have no sound on the TV. You have nothing to do for like an hour while I'm doing this. So I want to try
really hard not to move, and I try to herd the cats, but inevitably there's some sounds happening.
You literally have to sit still and almost like be like a mime, right?
We'll have to get
frozen in time.
We'll have to get you a recording shed in the backyard.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah, I was just gonna say, for Christmas, did you get me a recording studio?
I did not. I just thought of it. So the answer is no.
Well, we'll have to put that on the list for next year. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. And I look forward to hearing about everybody's word of the year for 2023.
I don't know how to sign off. I can't say like, hey, I'll see you around the corner. You know what I mean? Yeah. I will. I'll see you when you get home. How about that?
Okay. All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
That was the podcast with Ann Tulloch this week. It is a special holiday edition podcast that we had. Here are a couple takeaways that I want to share with you regarding your word for the year. Number 1, when picking your word of the year, think of it as your mantra for the year coming up, because you're going to come back to this word several times throughout the year, right? When you need to pick me up, when you're feeling a little bit down, you're feeling a little bit stressed, you're feeling a little bit tired, this is the word to get you through that time, and I want you to keep saying it to yourself, and it does work. I do this several times a year. We all need kind of to be reminded what's important and what our goals are. And this word encapsulates the goal that you have for the year ahead. Number 2, make sure to share that word with either other people, write it down, put it somewhere where you can see it. You want your word to either be visible to yourself, or you want someone to hold you accountable to make sure that whatever that word may be for you, are you following up and doing what you're supposed to be doing to hold true to that word during the year coming up? Last but not least, do not underestimate the power that one word can have on your mindset. It can change everything in your life, right? And I'm not saying that by choosing a word for 2023 that everything is going to be perfect in your world if you choose one word to encapsulate your goals, but it gives you focus to work towards your goals. And it can be that daily reminder when you need to be reminded of something to keep you headed in the right direction and away from that drift that we all get when we lose focus, and can really be the difference between having a mediocre year or making it a great year ahead. And speaking of great years, I wanted to take the time, since we're at the end of the year, to thank you all for making it a great year for this podcast. We started this podcast at the beginning of the pandemic, and I had no idea that when we started it would grow to what it is now. And it's allowed me to make many new friends out there, to meet a lot of you, in different offices, different areas of Fox and Roach and our footprint out there. And I thank each and every one of you for listening, your loyalty, and your friendship. So here's to 2023 ahead for all of us. I wish you nothing but success in the year ahead. And hopefully I will be able to talk to many of you face to face in 2023. Well, that's it for the podcast this week. We will be back in a couple of weeks with a new topic, a new guest. And as always, if you want to hear something that we haven't covered yet, reach out to me at jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to our podcast or left us a review, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. This is Jason Ostrowski saying happy holidays, happy new year, and as always, stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.